They say love makes a house a home.
Buddy was so happy to go. They were going to live on a large property, and it sounds very storybook.
But love can be blind.
I made a joke out of it, and it wasn't a joke to Buddy.
And when strangers are in your home, it can be dangerous.
He was basically a hostage. He was being tortured.
Even deadly.
This was definitely evil with a capital E.
On an early morning run on the outskirts of Houston, a man notices someone sleeping by the side of the road. But when he loops back and the figure hasn't stirred, he calls 911.
Initially, a jogger had called in to police dispatch that something was wrong with the person, and he'd seen a man laying in a ditch. Thought that maybe they were drunk or passed out or sleeping.
We arrived at the scene and observed that there was a body laying off the roadway in some grass. The body had evidence of trauma, cuts, bruises, but the unusual thing about it was the clothes were very clean. You would expect that if it was a hit and run, which we kind of thought maybe that's what it was going to be at first, that the clothes would have been tore up, would have been dirty, but that wasn't the case.
Cleaned up, he's been washed up, he ain't got no blood on him.
And no blood at all. It just like somebody had been beaten severely. We knew that something was wrong with the scene immediately.
Gun wounds. I don't see no stab wounds.
One shoe was laying on the ground next to the victim, and the other shoe was on his foot, but it was on the wrong foot. So you could tell somebody hastily dressed him.
Glasses over here.
And threw him out there on the scene.
While evidence tells police that this was no hit and run, it tells them nothing about who the dead man is. And when investigators have a body with no name, they first look to the names that have no bodies.
We checked our case files, our reports, to see maybe if somebody reported someone missing.
Find anything?
Nothing yet. That wasn't the case, so we checked the next city over, Jacinto City, to see maybe if someone reported someone missing.
Hey, yeah, it's Assistant Chief Pruitt over at Glenna Park here. Listen, I was wondering if you could help us out here. We're going to miss you.
It was at that time we found out that a woman by the name of Suzanne Basso,
I think we got a hit. A Louis Lusso. Age is right. Also known as Buddy. Yeah,
had come in to the police station to report a person missing.
The cops head over to Suzanne Basso's home in Jacinto City to learn more.
Sue Basso lived in a working-class neighborhood east of Houston, and her home was very much like the others. There was nothing remarkable about it. It's just very modest, working class.
I went up and knocked on the door. Suzanne answered the door.
Hi. Can I help you?
Ma'am, are you the person that reported Buddy and Lusso missing?
Yes, I am. Have you found him?
Well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure, ma'am.
She doesn't know where he is. She thinks he might be off with one of his little girlfriends.
I think, actually, he left me for some Mexican woman.
Suzanne isn't the only one home.
I said, who's that looking out the window? And she said, my son, James O'Malley.
Could you please ask him to step out here?
I don't think it's a good idea. He's a little mentally slow, and he doesn't really know what's going on. But I can explain anything.
I still need him to come out here right now anyway, please. Go ahead.
You know, for obvious reasons, security and safety reasons. So he stepped to the door.
This man needs to ask you some questions.
Yeah, well, this morning we had a report about a person lying by the side of the road with no ID, and he matched the details that you gave to the police. So I need you all to come downtown right now and ID the body.
The body?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it him? Oh, my God.
We're not sure, ma'am. I need you to come with me, all right with that? You can do that?
James? Yes.
So I loaded them both up in the car, and we went to the scene.
Pruitt decides Suzanne is in no shape to ID the body.
James.
I questioned him. I said, well, would James be able to know who he is? And I figured he would be able to observe the scene a little better because we needed to know who the victim was. So she remained in the car. We walked up to the scene. We didn't enter the scene itself, but he could see from the distance. And he's staring in that area completely and didn't take his eyes off that area. And when we got up there, I turned and looked at him.
Is that Buddy, James? Yeah. That's Buddy.
Is that Buddy? Is it Buddy?
Suzanne was hysterical and saying, "Is that Buddy? Is it Buddy? Is it Buddy?"
Look, ma'am, James just confirmed that it was Mr. Musso.
I got them in the car and asked him if they'd accompany us to the police station to give us a play-by-play as to Buddy's whereabouts and take a statement from him.
Now that police know the man in the ditch is Buddy Musso, they're left with one very pressing question. Who wanted him dead?
When Buddy left, he probably was the happiest that he's ever been.
We couldn't believe it. We couldn't believe that. How could anybody do this to Buddy?
The battered corpse of Buddy Musso has been found on the side of the road just outside of Houston. Police have little evidence and no witnesses. They do know one thing. He's a long way from his home back in New Jersey. Just a ferry ride from Midtown Manhattan, Cliffside Park is a small, safe borough of only 30,000 people.
Crime rate? Very little. You could put your apple pie on the windowsill. It'll still be there in the morning.
And at the Cliffside Seniors Housing Complex, things are even safer still. And one person everyone knows here is Louis Musso.
We always knew him as Buddy Musso. He was passionate. You know, he was passionate.
I want to sing you a song that I wrote.
And it was almost in a childlike way. That's what endeared him to so many people.
Even though Buddy is no senior, a mild cognitive disability brought him here as a resident.
Tennessee girl that I love.
Buddy was a sweetheart of a guy. Simple. He wasn't the brightest kid on the block, but lovable.
She's the girl that I dream of every day.
Buddy just had a good heart and a good soul.
He was a really respected, well-liked man. He was gentle and kind. He was happy. He loved family. He liked dressing up as a cowboy. He was a guy that liked country music.
I'm going to meet her someday. And we're going to fall in love.
Buddy played the guitar, banjo, and the drums. He was he really loved music and loved singing. He was married, and he had a son, Anthony. His wife died when Anthony was 2, and he was just devastated by his wife's death. He was really a family guy, and he just wanted family.
Buddy's son had grown up, and they grew distant, leaving Buddy truly alone.
Buddy was actually looking for a girlfriend.
A new love and a new family. It all seems like a pipe dream, till the carnival sweeps into town.
There's really nothing as pretty as a carnival, is there?
Oh, I love them. I come whenever the church has them.
I'm actually just visiting, and when I drove by, I saw the lights, and I just had to come. I love them too.
Hey, do you want some popcorn?
Yeah.
Have some popcorn, please.
I can pay for it myself.
No, I can pay for it.
It was at the Epiphany Church in Cliffside. And every year they have a carnival. Rides for the kids and little areas where you can win a doll. Buddy always used to go to those. He'd go to the start and stay there till it finished.
So what do you think of my chances?
Well, I'm pretty sure these games are rigged, but you never know.
Well, maybe you'll be my lucky charm.
Maybe.
He met this particular person, and she showed him a little bit of attention and, I guess, affection also. So,
One more.
as far as Buddy was concerned, that was the key to a relationship that could have blossomed into something that he was looking for.
Does she wear my lucky charm?
I'm Suzanne.
Buddy.
Though the fair soon pulls up stakes and vanishes, and while Suzanne's vacation ends, the romance doesn't.
Okay, bye. Bye.
He's on the payphone in the lobby, 10 o'clock.
And just who were you talking to at 10 o'clock at night?
My girlfriend.
Oh, I said, Chief, she's got a friend. I'll go with you. He said, it's not like that. He said, I'm in love.
I just talked to her on the phone, and we're going to talk again.
He insists that he's smitten with a woman named Suzanne, a 44-year-old mother of 2 who lives in Buddy's favorite place on earth.
She lives in Texas.
Buddy was probably very lonely and felt very much alone in the area he was in.
Nights, I usually go see some country music, you know.
Suzanne herself was seduced by the romance of Texas. She's originally a northern girl, north of the border even.
From Halifax, Nova Scotia.
Like Buddy, Suzanne had been married before, and that union had been splashed all over the pages of the Houston Chronicle. Their wedding announcement trumpeted their love and many impressive details of their lives.
She was an oil heiress, a gymnast, a ballerina, a dancer.
She was educated in these fancy schools in Ireland and had been in a convent at one time. Carmine Basso was, by all accounts, was a gentleman, decent man. He had a Medal of Honor in the Vietnam War.
Carmine ran a private investigation agency and security firm.
But not long after the pair found love, tragedy struck.
Carmine died in Houston. He was found in his office, and it was an esophageal issue, like a severe acid reflux that continued. It was ruled natural causes.
Although Suzanne is back in Texas, the long-distance relationship continues through the fall and into the spring.
The relationship obviously stepped up. She would call up there. He became very excited. There's this woman in my lady love, as he called her.
Buddy actually felt that for the first time in a long time, he had met his soulmate.
At Suzanne's frequent urging, Buddy considers pulling up stakes to move into her home in Jacinto City.
From what we heard, that she was going to shower him with gifts. They were going to live on a large property, and it sounds great. It sounds very storybook.
Hey, buddy, how you doing? Hey, Unc. Hey, I just got a picture from my girlfriend, Suzanne Basso in Texas.
Oh, I said Texas. He said, I mean, the donkey says, I love it. I'm going. I said, all right.
We were all kind of saying, yeah, okay, buddy, that's all right. You can, that sounds like a great idea.
Things are really looking up, buddy. You're really looking up.
He got on a bus that morning and went to Texas. I ain't never seen him again.
The body of 57-year-old Buddy Musso has been found by the side of the road in Texas. A terrible fate for someone who followed his heart there just 2 months before.
It's about time, cowboy.
Much obliged, ma'am. Much obliged.
Buddy Musso got on a bus in New Jersey and came here. You see this guy dressed up in this little Western shirt. He got his boots on, his hat on.
You're gonna love it here. It's warm and dry and no depressing winters.
New love, new state, new home.
Buddy's life when he first came down here was fine. I believe that he was happy. He enjoyed living with Suzanne.
Morning, sunshine.
Morning, sweetheart. Guess what? I got you a job.
A job?
Yes.
She was a security guard. She worked for her own company.
He was a night watchman.
Oh.
All things happened to him that he didn't have going for him before. Now I got a job, I got a uniform. The fact that you gave him a badge and a stick and a flashlight had to be overwhelming to him. Like, wow, look at me, you know?
Suzanne is even taking over all the messy details that Buddy's always found unmanageable.
I think we should deal with your finances. Since we both know that you're not good at that stuff, I can take care of it for you.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, and I've got life insurance.
Oh, I don't like life insurance. It's a jinx.
Well, don't worry, because all you have to do is sign your name here and initial here.
Okay.
Hello? Yes, just give me 1 second. It's for you.
For me?
Mm-hmm.
Ow!
While he's delighted to be at Suzanne's side, Buddy's new home isn't exactly what he was expecting of his blue blood girlfriend.
You had a working class home, very modest, very cluttered, like a hoarder almost. There were plastic boxes, there were computer equipment, television sets, all sorts of stuff everywhere. And a lot of it had kind of an Irish theme, you know, there was a lot of green, there were shamrocks on the walls. In one side room, they'd converted into an office. So they had a computer, and it was cramped and full. But then you had some high-end elements. There were copies of Colonial Williamsburg magazine, the Foundation magazine, the New Yorker. There was Tchaikovsky compact discs, you know, classical music.
But the house isn't just filled with stuff. Suzanne's son, James, takes up a lot of space, too.
He wore black rimmed glasses, short hair, military-style haircut, wearing the fatigues, a G.I. Joe wannabe would be the best way to describe it.
And James is a little odd.
He looked like an extra off Full Metal Jacket. He was just this little misfit guy. He's never been in the army. He's never served his country, but he's playing pretend.
But Buddy gets along with everyone.
Everybody loved him. He was just a very lovable guy.
All right, guys, food's ready.
James isn't the only one Buddy has to win over. His new home in Jacinto City is always packed with friends.
Suzanne had collected just an odd collection of people. They were different ages. She did have an ability on some people to draw them in a very personal way. She would often bring people down on their luck into their home.
Buddy, this is everyone. My old friend Bernice, her son Craig, her daughter Hope, and Hope's fiance Terrence.
I'm not exactly sure how Bernice and that group got together. I do know that they had become friends and were friends for a couple years. She would visit them at their apartment, and they would come over to Jacinto City.
Yes, my love. Ain't no pants in this house. Understand? Yes, I hear she dreamed.
Sorry, I have to work another double today.
Oh.
Won't last forever. It's just how it is now.
Okay.
Okay? Have fun. Love you.
Love you too.
This crowd is often in Suzanne's home, even when she's working her frequent long shifts at her security company.
What you doing, buddy?
Nothing.
Nothing?
Nothing.
You want to play a tune?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, come on, buddy. Play some
There
song.
he is.
It's my guitar.
Atta boy.
He always wanted to play, no matter what it was, even if it was for lunch.
What song do you want me to play?
Cold beers.
I don't know that one.
Buddy, this is a concert, a one-man show, right? We need some beers here. This is...
Oh.
Right? Ah.
I'll get you some beers.
Yes, yes.
It doesn't take long before they start asking Buddy to do all kinds of small chores.
Here you go.
Here's a man who was used to doing all of these things for people back when he was in the senior center.
Hey, buddy. What is this? Beer's not cold enough.
Oh.
Not cold enough.
Helping people out, getting things for people.
Hey, buddy.
Yeah.
It smells really bad in here. I think maybe you need to empty the ashtray.
Well, you heard the lady. What are you looking at me for?
Now here he was made to be almost in servitude towards them.
Over a period of weeks, Buddy began to experience abuse.
Buddy! You quick with them clothes, yeah?
Yeah.
And don't go talking to them Mexican ladies.
This group would go to a Chinese restaurant. They would be eating. Everybody would get big plates of food, and except for Buddy, and not allow him to eat. And they would throw food at him.
I think he still felt that it might change. I'm sure Buddy felt that everything would be okay. He could probably win those people over.
It's a Southern thing. You're going to cook frog, throw it into the water. If the water's already boiling, the frog will jump out. Put the frog in the water, slowly turn up the heat. Frog's not going anywhere.
And the heat is being turned up.
They would go into the restaurant. They would leave Buddy out in the car handcuffed so that he couldn't get away.
This is a guy who was turned into a prisoner. He was basically a hostage.
Faster, move them legs, move them legs.
There was a field outside of Bernice Aaron's apartment.
Oh, now finish.
And the police officer arrived. Buddy was out there. He was huffing and puffing, and he couldn't run, but he was trying. The police officer kind of took Buddy off to the side to find out what was going on, because Buddy was obviously older than those two.
He wants us to make him do this. He likes doing it. They told me I had to run. I just want to go see Suzanne.
The police officer walked Buddy, along with Terrence and James, to Bernice's apartment. Knocked on the door. Suzanne answered.
Buddy, what happened?
These boys will make that man run sprints.
Sprints. Ugh, James, you know boys will be boys. Are you okay, buddy? Let's go inside.
The what's with those eyes?
Oh, it was a terrible thing. He was jumped a few days ago by 3 Mexicans. It was terrible, but he's fine now, aren't you, buddy?
This is where I want to be. I want to be with Suzanne.
Yeah, come on.
People wondered why Buddy didn't leave. Buddy being the type of a person that he was committed to his relationship.
While the policeman feels that things are amiss with this odd collection of people, he doesn't know the half of it.
This was a very, very dysfunctional group. Very dysfunctional group.
They can beat him, they can torture him, they can belittle him, and nobody will stop him.
Buddy Musso has moved from New Jersey to Texas, looking for storybook love. But the fairy tale has taken a grim turn.
They had a little mat that children use when they're in kindergarten, when it's nap time. That's what they had for Buddy. And they made Buddy kneel on it. If he tried to lie down, he'd get punished. If he tried to stand up, he would get punished. If he wanted to go to the bathroom and they wouldn't let him and he wet his pants, he would get punished.
What you doing, buddy?
A whole army of misfits watching this guy. Torturing him, beating him, keeping him in line.
And even when they were beating him and torturing him, he complied. He just wanted to get along, just wanted to be liked, just wanted to be part of a family.
James, please.
The abuse reaches a deadly peak one sultry weekend at Bernice's apartment.
Suzanne was working. Suzanne didn't trust just her son to watch Buddy, so that's why she brought him over to Bernice's house, because there were more people there.
Different place, same treatment.
Buddy! Get up, get up. We hungry. Want to make some food? Yeah, go ahead.
They look like a group of people that have maybe been picked on in their lives because they're just kind of sad-looking people that didn't appear, if you just looked at them, like they were successful in life. These people were all people that heaped their life's problems on Buddy, and the things that they had experienced in life, they gave to him.
It's horrific what started to happen to this guy.
And in August 1998, 2 months after moving to Houston, Buddy vanishes.
Hi, I'm calling to report a missing person.
So when a body is found at the side of the road 2 days after the call, police pay a visit to the Basso home. Suzanne and James go to the scene where James identifies Buddy's corpse. Both are taken to the police station where they're interviewed separately.
At this point, they weren't suspect.
Suzanne was hysterical, crying, very upset.
She thinks that he went down to visit some Hispanic women at the washateria.
Baby, he left me for this Mexican woman.
In the other room, James is telling a very similar story.
Look, I think he ran off with some woman, all right? Some Mexican woman, probably. I remember him doing laundry.
Still, Pruitt suspects James knows more about Buddy's death than he's letting on.
Go back to his hometown in New Jersey. I don't know.
And without a doubt, it appeared to me, and again, with my experience and suspicion, that he knew what he would find prior to him getting there.
Yeah.
There was no great shock. It was almost an immediate answer and said, yes, that's Buddy. And the position of the victim and all would have made it almost impossible for him to make that determination without almost walking clean up on the victim.
From that distance, you couldn't tell if that was a man or a woman.
And in short order, the story comes flooding out.
We didn't intend to kill him. All right? We didn't know he was dead when I left him there. I come back, he didn't open his eyes. Yeah, we killed the guy. We killed him.
He pretty much had confessed that they'd had Buddy over at the Bernice Aaron's apartment, and that he misbehaved and they did this.
Looks like we got a bunch of people to pick up.
To flesh out what happened, the others are quickly rounded up. The story they tell horrifies the officers.
They were just aghast. They were amazed at this brutality. Cops see brutal stuff all the time. This was a whole new level.
And James has one last shocking secret.
It was quite obvious that Buddy was brought down here for a reason.
After the murder of Buddy Musso, James O'Malley delivers a sudden and shocking confession.
Yeah, we killed the guy. We killed him.
We brought Bernice, Craig, Terrence and Hope to the police station for questioning. Everybody started pointing fingers at each other.
Then the dance began with all the suspects. The dance that police have to go through to get statements.
You're wasting time!
Armed with James's statement, Pruitt goes back to Suzanne for her story.
Oh my God, buddy. I'm so sorry,
Stop lying, Suzanne! Your son just confessed.
Well, this startled her quite a bit.
Suzanne pointed mainly at her son.
I didn't do anything. I just wanted to protect James. He's my son. He's not right in the head. Don't you know that?
She was Buddy's benefactor and his protector.
I was working doubles. I had no idea what they were doing. And I just kept seeing marks on his body when I came home.
But the rest of her family offer a very different version of events and drop a bombshell on the cops.
Suzanne, my mother, she was there. She told us to do it.
Her son pointed a finger at Suzanne. Craig, Terrence, and Bernice pointed fingers at Suzanne.
They were scared of Suzanne Basso.
I had nothing to do with this. I want to go home.
It was obvious that Suzanne was the ringleader. She was the one that told him to do all the bad things to Buddy.
Give me your bill.
She was the one that initiated the beatings.
Suzanne had total control over that group.
I think somebody wants to get punished, James.
She was probably smarter than the rest of them. I can't say that they respected her, but I believe they feared her. And I don't know how she was able to have such dominion over them, but she did.
After all the statements were taken, I started to put the picture together of what Buddy might have gone through. And it was quite obvious that Buddy was brought down here for a reason.
Have 2 popcorn, please?
I can pay for it myself.
No, I want to.
She saw Buddy as an income source, so I think she schemed to have Buddy come down and live off of Buddy's Social Security money and pretend to be his girlfriend.
In short order, her role as loving fiancé fades.
The people in New Jersey would try and call him, and at first Suzanne would put him on the phone and he would talk. It was very much controlled by Suzanne. And after a while, she would say, well, Buddy's not here, or Buddy's outside, or Buddy's doing something else.
Okay, well, let me see what I can do. 1 second.
Suzanne Basso did a really good job at keeping the outside world out. Nobody can interfere with what they're doing. Nobody can stop their plan. Buddy Musso is theirs.
Suzanne types up a will stating that everything Buddy owns would be hers when he dies.
It's like, leave everything to Suzanne, even the drum set. Nobody else gets anything, not his family members.
Then there is his insurance policy.
Buddy initialed it, every page. It was his initials, L.M. Louis Musso.
It had an escalator clause in it from 15 to 60 grand, I believe, if he died a violent death. Buddy wanted to leave. I think he wanted to try to leave. They found a note in his pants written, get me out of here, basically. I just think he didn't have the means.
What do you think you're doing? James! Hammer and nails, now!
For Suzanne, Buddy is worth more dead than alive.
Buddy became a problem for Suzanne. He was an irritant to her. I just believe that she just wanted it over with. She's just tired of dealing with it.
Sit down. Down. Lie down. Down!
When police interview all the suspects, they learn how Suzanne solves her problems.
In the last few days of his life, the torture was dialed up to a terrifying extreme.
It happened in the last week of August 1998 in Bernice's apartment.
Come on, let's go. Craig, Bernice, you're up.
There was no one that did not hit him. He was hit with all manner of things.
Come on, harder.
He had such a descriptive type of a face where you knew every emotion that was going through Buddy's mind. I just couldn't picture the look on his face those last couple of days, it must have been a look of puzzlement as to what happened. Why is she doing this to me? The person who loved me, how could she do this to me?
I hurt really bad. I think I need an ambulance.
We need an ambulance when I'm not done with you, Debbie.
She hit him with the vacuum cleaner part.
James! Come on!
Suzanne's son kicked him with the steel-toed boots.
Why did you stop? Let's go!
This guy, his body was a roadmap to torture. He was scrubbed with a wire brush and this skin-peeling mix of cleaning fluid.
They turned the shower on to rinse him off because he was all bloody. And left the shower running and just left him in the bathtub. James said when he returned to the shower, he noticed Buddy was dead.
Buddy?
He got with everyone that was in the apartment, and then they all agreed not to tell anybody what had happened.
After Buddy's left in the dust and his killers are arrested, the savage murder sparks a media storm.
It was a big news story because it was 6 capital murders in Galena Park with a horribly beaten-up man.
When the name Suzanne Basso hits the front page, it rings more than a few bells, thanks to Suzanne's wedding announcement from a few years before.
She called herself an oil heiress, and she had this big, long name that had probably 8 names to it.
It's absurd. Nothing about the wedding announcement added up. It just didn't make sense.
In fact, Suzanne had grown up on the east coast of the U.S., not Canada. And there was no oil money, no gymnastics, no endless names or private schools.
From all accounts, she was a lovely little girl. She was the youngest daughter in a family of 8.
But the little girl had herself seen the face of evil.
Suzanne Basso was an abused kid, sexually, physically. Her parents were apparently some pretty brutal folks. She was, in turn, brutal with her kids. She carried it on to the next generation. Her son, James O'Malley, there were indications that she had had a sexual relationship with him.
His mother totally controlled him.
As details of Suzanne's past come flooding in, the death of Carmine Basso looks more than a little suspicious.
If you look at some of the things that happened with Buddy Musso, there were times when people were denied food. And then you read that Carmine Basso suffered from malnourishment, which could have led to some of the esophageal issues. It really does make you wonder what went on in his life.
While many suspect Suzanne may have tortured Carmine as well, Buddy's death remains the focus of police investigations, and all 6 players are charged with capital murder.
James O'Malley got life in prison. Bernice got 80 years. Her son Craig got 60 years. Terrence got life.
And Hope Aarons got 20 years.
Suzanne was the only person we wanted to prosecute and seek the death penalty because she was the ringleader.
In October of 1999, she's convicted of capital murder and sentenced to death. She's executed on February 5th, 2014.
You know, in this business, you see evil with a small e and you see evil with a capital E. And this was definitely evil with a capital E. That woman, Suzanne Basso, was evil.
Buddy Musso was looking for love. He was looking for someone to share the rest of his life with. Suzanne Bastow wasn't looking for love. She was looking for a payday.
Back in New Jersey, the loss of Buddy still haunts his friends.
To think somebody would do something like that to a kid like that. You're not even a human being. They're animals. To do that to another human being. I have regrets that I didn't try to stop him from going. I never thought he would do it. But he did. And I feel so bad that that happened to him.